Hi, my name is JP Liebengood, and tonight I want to talk to you about safe COVID behavior pods and D&D dice, and a little thing I call the last 11 months all tonight Valentine's Day edition. Now, if you weren't a D&D nerd in the 80s, this is what a dice looks like for you. And you might have used it to play Yahtzee, or maybe to lose your life savings in a casino because you thought there was no way you could roll two ones in a row, which we'll get to in a moment, and your accountant's probably already explained to you. However, if you were a D&D person, to you, these were dice. In D&D, there were many different sided dice that represented the different chances of something happening. So say you wanted to know the chance of rolling a 1. Well, on a 4-sided dice, you would have a 25% chance. On the 6-sided dice, you would have a 17% chance. On the 8-sided dice, 13% chance, 10% chance, 8% chance with the 12-sided die, and the good old die 20, 5%. There may be more dice than that. I don't know. I got into a high school play, got a driver's license, and really, I kind of forgot about D&D for a while. Until I got out of college and my first job was being an AIDS educator. What does that have to do with dice, you might ask? Oh, I'm happy you asked. In fact, that's why I made you ask it instead of hoping you would. One of my first jobs out of college was being an HIV/AIDS educator, and the term we hated the most was safe sex. And let me tell you why. Unless you were having sex just by yourself alone, there was no such thing as completely safe sex. There were just things you could do to make it safer. And side note, if what you were doing was having sex with just by yourself and being safe even to the point where you would sanitize your hands, use an antibacterial soap, not say acetone or rubbing alcohol. Trust me, you'll thank me for that one. But anyway, back to risk. There are things you could do to make sex safer. You could use protection, you could be with a trusted partner, and you could limit the amount of sexual partners you had. Because let's go back to the dice. If you were trying to avoid a 1, in this case, 1 is getting AIDS, would you rather roll a 4-sided dice or a 10-sided dice? Well, easy. This is a 10% chance of getting it. This is a 25% chance of getting it. You'd want to roll this dice. But what if I asked you if you wanted to roll 2 10-sided dice, and if you get a 1 on either dice, bad. If you get a 1 on this dice, bad. Well, you would actually still rather roll the 2 10-sided dice, because the 2 10-sided dice are only about a 19% chance of rolling a 1. This is still a 25. But then I said, hey, what if you wanted to roll 3 dice, 3 10-sided dice versus a 4-sided dice? Now remember, each of these, let's say they represent safer behavior, only represents a 1 in 10 chance, where this, which unsafe behavior, is a 1 in 4 chance. But if you had 3 different safer behaviors with 3 different people, this would give you about a 27% chance of rolling a 1, whereas this only gives you a 25% chance of rolling 1. Basically, even though each of these instances are safer, taking this risk 3 times is equal to taking a very risky behavior 1 time. So, that brings me to where we are today in the pandemic. During the pandemic, we've been told a lot of things, and some of those things have changed because that's the way science works. But right now, the generally agreed upon thing is that we stay 6 feet apart, we wear a mask to stop spreading it, and now there is good evidence to show that maybe wearing a paper mask underneath a cloth mask can help you from not only not spreading it, but not getting it. We've been told to keep our gatherings small, 6 or less, 10 or less. And generally we've been told to keep those gatherings to 2 households, or as it's used in other places, pods. What is a household? What is a pod? Well, it's something like this. Let me explain. A household or a pod is a group of people in a closed system that have prolonged, unmasked indoor exposure to each other. Now, generally, this is a family, but this is the 21st century. So, pods have taken on a new meaning. For example, this pod, two people dating, but they don't live together. Why? Because love isn't necessarily sharing a toilet, okay? Sharing a bathroom and being in love are two different things. And sometimes you like to go to sleep with someone, and sometimes you like to wake up alone. So just butt out of it. If they're happy, it's fine. Not everyone needs to share a bathroom. But anyway, these two people are dating but living apart. This person is taking care of a sick parent. This person has two roommates. These two roommates are dating. They never leave the apartment. They're just really with each other. Sometimes they like to be with her, but she ain't playing that. And every time they get drunk on wine, anyway, it's a thing. So when you look at this, I've used lines. These two people have primary contact. These two people have primary contact. These three people have primary contact, but not in the way that they would hope. The blue lines are secondary contact. So this person here has a secondary contact with this person. This person here has a secondary contact with these two people. And the green lines are tertiary contacts, which means these three people are basically 2 degrees separated. So you have tertiary, quaternary, quinary, tertiary. Basically when it gets to 6, it's just called a bacon. But this is what we would call a pod. And it is closed. There are no unmasked, indoor, prolonged exposures outside this group. So in this pod, it all goes back to the dice. Because this thing has a theme, and I wouldn't have just put you through that for no reason. Anytime anyone in this pod risks an exposure or does a safer behavior, well, they're putting that chance in the pool. So someone went grocery shopping. Someone's mental health really depends on getting to the gym and feeling healthy. Had to take mom to a doctor's office. Everyone was super masked and waited outside. Had to go supply shopping at the hardware store for the water thingy-mabobber that broke. I obviously wouldn't be that person. Just daily life. All those risks go into the pot. And then all those risks are rolled. All of them are safer behaviors, though now the chance of rolling a 1 isn't 1 in 20, it's a little bit higher. And before anyone gets in the comment section, I realize these chances aren't 1 in 20 and whatnot, but these are the dice I have to work with. So every testing cycle, and in a pod, if you have people getting tested every 2 weeks at different intervals, generally you have some test result from within the pod every 5 days or so. So every testing interval, people are rolling the dice, hoping not to get a 1. And that turned out well. Because it's a closed system, everyone's in the same group. Now say, everyone's doing those safe behaviors, but let's say grandma decides to, hook up with some dude in the bathroom at a bingo hall without us knowing. Well, grandma, you just do a 3 in there. Or say, the roommates, Pam and Gary. Let's say Gary really has been using this like pansexual polyamory thing, just really is 21st century language to screw around, and he's not really being honest with people, Well, thanks, Gary. You just put a, 4-sided die now in our community glass. Let's hope that roll goes well by the time some of us get tested. You're a lucky man, Gary, but you really need to live your truth. And that's the way a pod or a household works. And if you can keep it buttoned down and keep, grandma from doing crazy things, or, have Gary either put his truth out into the light or just stop being so sus, then it works fine. But time has been dragging on, and it's getting hard. And I mean, cold outside. And if it's not cold, you're in Florida and you got a whole other set of problems that I'm not going to address in this video. But, there was a time where I would go out grocery shopping and I would have coffee outside with a friend 10 feet away, uncovered, and that helped this pandemic kind of come along. But then people in the grocery store, it wasn't just below their nose. There was a guy in the grocery store who was wearing it around his chin. Now, you know what? That's just, what you're doing is wrong, but you're flaunting it. You're like the person that comes to the cookout with like a small bag of chips and eats 3 helpings. You know what? We'd rather you just not even bring the chips. Just be honest about it. I mean, bring ice. Everyone loves ice. But anyway, yeah, a lot of us now are just having to shop curbside or online, and we really can't see our friends for open air walks and coffees anymore. And, it's nice to get together with people. And with the guidelines, we've been hearing 6 or less, 10 or less, 2 households. It's easy to think that you're being safer. But the thing is this simple scenario. You're one of these couples here, and you have dinner with another couple. And they're being very safer too. They're being good. And, you had dinner with another couple who's also being safer. So over the course of 2 weeks, you were having dinner inside with 2 couples. And basically all those couples are acting the same. They're keeping it small, not a big deal, just occasional drinks or a dinner with, another couple or that friend who lives alone and has no one. So that seems fine. Can't be much different than our pod. What would that behavior look like for 2 couples having 2 dinners every couple of weeks with a couple other couples? Well, look something like this. This represents basically the chain of one couple having 2 meals, just sharing a table, sharing a bar with 2 different households, each once within 2 weeks, and everyone kind of acting the same and safer. It's a pandemic. I've had a lot of time on my hands. And in this, if you look at it, it affects about 10 to 14 households, this behavior. It has 28 primary, sitting there within 6 feet without a mask off, eating, drinking, 28 primary exposures. It also has somewhere around 60-ish secondary exposures, and I started to try to draw the lines for the tertiary, quaternary, cineary, bacon level exposures, and basically the chalkboard is tertiary. It would just be one big green connection. Basically, in short, what you have here is a whole lot of dice. A lot of them are the 20-sided, 50-sided, 100-sided dice. But then of course you got Grandma doing weird bingo stuff at midnight, and Gary and his problematic attitudes, and just basically I couldn't get hold of enough dice to represent these basic 96 people that would be affected by 9 meals. 9 meals total. Out of all the households, there were 9 meals and 100 people. But all those dice, picture that 100 of dice, some 3s, some 50s, some 100s, all going into the same pool until someone gets tested. Want to check for a 1? It's probably there. And then what happens? Well, that one thing happens, and then these people down the line get COVID. And a couple people get it, they don't even know they have it, which is not great. And other people get it, and they're going to be fine. And then a few people, they go on a respirator and take up hospital space that someone might need for a car accident or a heart attack. And then, well, some of them they're just gone. So problematic Gary over here with his hot tub is in the chain way over here, causing the death of a parent he doesn't even know, never even met. And that's what's happening. We're near the finish line, but we gotta tighten up. And I get it. This has been dragging on forever. Kids are going crazy and falling behind in school. Mental health has just been devastated. Our small businesses, our friends and neighbors are been stuck between trying to keep their community safe and trying to keep their doors open. And we as their friends have been put in this impossible position of whether to really support those people that work in our neighborhood and our friends are putting our loved ones at risk. And it didn't have to be. We could have seen this as a national security and national health crisis immediately and jumped on it. We could have used our amazing commercial infrastructure to have COVID testing done in every supermarket and drugstore across the United States, just on a rotating basis. And, I did the math, and if we had opened up, used all those grocery stores and supermarkets and drugstores, if we had opened up one vaccination center per about every 100,000, 95,000 Americans, we would put one there, and it would have 20 vaccination stations within that vaccination center, and it'd be open for 10 hours a day. We could have gotten the first round of vaccination done in a little over 40 days since the first week in November, which means the second round of vaccinations about now. We should be done, but we're not. And it's getting hard. And it's getting easier not to be selfish, or it's not wanting to be safe. It's just easy to forget that these safer activities we do add up. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. The only reason I'm doing this video is just so as you move in your life, these last few months of winter, when we're just trying to get our parents vaccinated and then ourselves vaccinated, that it just puts in your head how many times you're rolling the dice and what that means. And hopefully we can all try to roll the dice a little less and get our loved ones across this finish line here. So, Valentine's Day, I just wish you all a small pod, a mini-sided dice, very few rolls, and everyone safe into spring and summer. Happy Valentine's Day from the Mad Bastard.